Boom.
So welcome everyone to our third episode of Ask Dr. Nima Live. Introduce you to our show this evening. My name is Amanda. And first I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit about your host, Nima, and then I will introduce a little bit about our guest. But for those of you that are joining and are on Blab for the first time, just to give you a few tips and tricks, the little yellow hands are to show some love. You can post to Facebook or Twitter at any time you find something exciting throughout the show. And feel free to chat with us through the chat box and let us know how you're feeling about what you see, sending Peter some love or Nima some love or any of us questions or love through the chat as well. And yeah, please just enjoy the show. If you've never ever had the experience of watching Dr. Nima work with the overview method, you are in for a real treat. For those of you that are joining us via podcast or are watching the replays or listening on the audio, just realize that it's a video live stream, so it might be a little strange if you're listening into the audio, and please feel free to find the video as well online. So without further ado, and at the risk of looking like I'm reading, because I'm going to share with you a little bit about Nima before we begin. So Nima is best described as an edutainer and known by his fans as the rapping stress doctor. And those of you that have seen Nima rap know what I'm talking about. Nima captivates and educates audiences of all ages with his unique ability to share his message of love, wisdom, and life mastery through words, music, and humor. With his audacious goal to bring stress and resilience education to groups worldwide, especially high school students, Nima is leading a global movement inspiring individuals to fall in love with their most authentic selves and live a life on purpose and in service to others. After 15 years in practice as a chiropractor, Nima became increasingly frustrated when he realized that stress was one of the most common underlying causes for his patient visits. He discovered that chiropractic care alone could not address why people get sick, stressed, and stuck, and became determined to find a solution. Fascinated by the various healing methodologies he had studied for more than 20 years, he decided to combine all of the wisdom of his people to follow tool, the overview method. Nima's unapologetic, unconventional, and innovative views on human behavior have attracted international attention and earned him invitations to share his message with a wide array of audiences across the world. So that's just a little bit of background about Nima for those of you that may not be familiar with him. Obviously, the website, if you want to learn more, is www.drnima.com. We will share that link throughout the Blab this evening as well. Now, it is my absolute pleasure to tell you a little bit about and introduce our guest for this evening. And for those of you who've never watched the show before, it's really important to realize that this is a very emotional thing for our guests. This is something that is scary, and they're taking a bit of a risk by sharing their stories with you. So please be courteous and kind and compassionate in what you're chatting about and what you're sharing. And just keep in mind that as scary as you might be for our guest Peter, he's probably 10 times just as nervous, but clearly Nima will put him at ease. So Peter, if you want to go right ahead and call in, that would be awesome. And we would love to welcome you to the show. For those of you that don't know the name of the show or the topic tonight as well, we're going to work on dissolving the stress of sex addiction. There he is.
All right. Getting in there.
So welcome,
Hi.
Peter.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Fantastic. Hello.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
So normally we would actually be visually sharing a little bit about your shitty first draft. So Nima, just to let you know, before I remove myself from the Blab, I have sent Peter the excerpt that we would like to have him read. So whenever you're ready, he's ready. You can just ask him to do that, okay?
I will ask him when we're ready. Absolutely.
Bye, guys. If you need me, just chat.
Thank you, Peter. My goodness. Thank you so much for being here. I got to tell you, just a little bit of a history for the people who are watching. Peter I met you you're the waiter at my favorite breakfast place, the Elbow Room. And right when I first met you, I was just blown away by how funny and unapologetic. And so one of your highest values, one of your superpowers we can all agree on is your ability to just command a room with attention and with performance. So the world is like your stage. You're essentially an artist. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I'm a recording artist. I do work at the Elbow Room, and it is a great avenue for me to be on stage, as Nima said. Yeah, when I'm there, I really do own that space. I take on a different character, right? So it's really beautiful to have that outlet to be able to do that. In the music field, I noticed, well, I'm working on my music every day. Singing has always been my passion. I have experience in piano, and I learned clarinet through high school, picked up the guitar. So music has always kind of been there as an outlet for me to express myself. Yeah,
Huge. Yeah,
for sure.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
And so you've been struggling lately. And so it was a couple of weeks ago or whatever. Wherever I go, I get a lot of messages, private messages with people who are struggling with something. As you know, stress is a
Mhm.
major factor in everybody's life. It seems that it's become an epidemic. The problem I found is that I've never been taught in school how to make sense of what challenges are in front of me. So when I did my own research and I found my own tools for my own self, I discovered my patients would benefit too. So I've been kind of working towards teaching this stuff. So when you approached me with this issue, I thought, oh my God, this is an incredible story. Can you put that shitty first draft as you're sharing onto paper for me? And we'll see, instead of me helping you right now, how brave are you? How willing are you to go? And we don't deal with it now, but let's deal with it live on camera. And
Mhm.
thank you for agreeing to this. That's huge.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been dealing with this for quite some time. As my story says, I've been single for since I was about 15, 16, 17.
Okay,
Um,
want to read some of that little highlight shitty first draft a little
yeah,
bit and share
definitely.
with the audience in your own words and feelings.
Would you like me to read it and then share, or would you
Yeah,
like me to
just no,
share?
go ahead. Just go ahead and read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my shitty first draft. So I wrote, I am 32 and have been single for 15 years now. If I start feeling really lonely, I turn on the hookup apps and begin whoring myself to any guy that will give me attention. I sometimes, in order to get responses, send mass texts to strangers saying, what the fuck? And sometimes I end up taking drugs in these situations and have unprotected sex with multiple partners. I am worried that if I continue acting out sexually like this, I will eventually contract some sort of STI. At times, I think I am doomed to just have meaningless sex with men and get my fix of approval in that way, and that no one will really ever appreciate and love me and be in a relationship with me. And that I will, die a lonely person. So that's kind of
And
where.
how do you feel? How does it feel when you're kind of saying all that?
Um, well, a part sounds over exaggerated,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I remember sharing the more comprehensive first draft with you, and it
Mm-hmm.
explained a situation in my past where I remember going on a date. I think the issue here is that there's an intimacy problem. It's for me, it's a lot less intimate to show someone my body parts and to be sexual with them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a much different story to be in a date situation with them, and that's kind of where I get the situation where I feel less than, unworthy for some reason. So it's easy to get my fix, if you will, from sex, but that's something I no longer want to continue doing because it prevents me from having deep intimacy with people. And
Yeah.
yeah, so the story that happened a while ago was, I was on a date with somebody, and I was in a coffee shop, and it was, a regular day, and he walked in, and I was completely infatuated by him, and like I usually am with people I like. And I just noticed that he was really successful, and his success intimidated me to the point where I was very uncomfortable. And I was so uncomfortable that I couldn't actually continue with the date. So I had to actually let the date stop where it was, because I knew that if I continued, it would just make me feel like I wouldn't be able to express my authentic self. And that definitely is a high value for me, now. So
all right.
that happened.
Well, dude, thank you so much. That's pretty brave of you. I mean, guys, tap that, click on his image. That's pretty freaking brave of somebody to just admit that and to be real with it. So let's deal with that. So there must have been a time recently where you were behaving that way. You were in the throes of your addiction, and then you were you just hit a rock bottom, which caused you to reach out and ask for some help. So can you go to a scene recently where all of that was happening?
Absolutely.
How long ago?
So the last kind of situation that really highlighted this for me was last week. Last week, I befriended this guy, and instantly, the moment I started, engaging with him and getting to know him, I started feeling deep feelings for him. And
like that night.
Well, it happened the day after. Like I met him one day, and we kind of met for a games night. And the next day after, so after the third time I saw him, I was already starting to feel these feelings. Like pretty much wanted to get with him. I was just completely infatuated with this person. Well, I introduced him to a friend of mine who is really, really cool. And I noticed that they started kind of engaging with each other. They, the guy that I liked ended up liking somebody else. And that kind of sent me in this, into this weird place of tailspin of feeling really insecure, really unworthy, a feeling of having to compete with my friend for this guy's attention, this guy that I completely don't even know, to be honest. I don't really know him.
So you made a story about it, right?
A story that has always kind of been there. I like someone and I instantly want to jump in the sack with them. I instantly want them to love me really badly. And I just remember feeling this intense longing and hunger.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go to that. And I guess what ends up happening when you get into the throes of this infatuation and then you get into that addiction, what's the judgment that you're making about yourself? What's the story that you're making about yourself about this whole scenario last week? Well, if you can go to that moment where it really hit you, I guess it was that feeling, first and foremost, rejection, right? You felt that he didn't like you, he liked the other person. Yeah. Okay. So what else?
I guess a feeling of unworthiness, like feeling unworthy and feeling less than.
Not good enough.
Not good enough.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Unworthy. All right. So rejection, not good enough, unworthy. So can you see that when Peter feels rejected, unworthy, I'm not good enough, no one will love me? That's another one, right? No one will love me. I'm writing all of these beliefs down.
So much.
Just keeping track of them. Anything else when you look at that whole scenario? Any other stories? Any I am statements? This is basically, for those watching, when I'm doing an overview on someone, I'm not a counselor or psychiatrist or a shrink. I'm like a best buddy. And when I work with people, I've just devised a really cool series of questions that you can actually learn to ask yourself and to extract what the underlying hidden order is behind a chaotic event. Once you identify the hidden order, you now have a strategy to get what it is consciously rather than doing it unconsciously through an addiction. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is to try and find out what the strategies are. I mean, what is it that we're really getting out of it? We already know what your values are. It's the music, it's your creativity, it's a performance. Those are what makes Peter come alive. You are a stage, you are a performer. You connect with audiences, you make people feel, you penetrate people's minds and feelings and emotions with your music, with your performances, with your stage performances, whatever it is that you do. That's the Peter. That's what we are. So there's that high higher minded self, which you are aware of, which you've been connected to, which you do through serving and through music and through performing. And then there's the lower minded side, which gets those same feelings, but in a different strategy. So what we're going to get you to do right now is to kind of understand and appreciate that gap between the higher mind and the lower mind. Once you do and you see it from a different perspective, you now have a way to govern your own mind and make your own choices. All right? That's really what the gift of this whole thing is. So what we've identified last week, after you meet this guy, you have this huge infatuation, huge crush, introduce him to somebody else. All of a sudden you feel this rejection. The words, the sounds of that dark passenger is, I'm not good enough. So what is it that Peter does as a result when he feels I'm gonna be alone, nobody's gonna love me?
Yeah.
How did you find yourself responding after that?
Well, I went straight to the hookup apps to get my validation from somebody else.
Exactly. So then we do this right away. It's like this pain. I have to stop this pain somehow, and I'm going to get what I can as quickly as possible through the drug or the connection and stuff. So I can relate to you, Peter. There was a period of time in my life where it was after my divorce, where I was feeling like I was lacking so much that I felt like I needed to get that from people outside of myself. And as you know, at that time, it's a very typical guy after a divorce, from as many as possible, because I was lacking. I was feeling like I was lacking so much inside. It wasn't an easy period to go through until I started to clarify things. So we're gonna find out where it comes from. Okay. Cool. I want you to go to that place where you felt that rejection, that I'm not good enough, that you felt that you had to go back to, that you had to go to your addiction to solve it. So let's go to your, that feeling right now, that rejection feeling. And I want you to sit there for a moment and now feel it. This is the active meditation portion of the overview method. For those of you just tuning in for the first time, as I guide you and I teach you how to guide yourself through this kind of self-meditation, reconnecting to your feelings. This is a problem with a lot of us. We don't learn how to connect to our feelings. So this is just an exercise. It's not therapy. It's not psychiatry, psychology. It's just reconnecting you to your body and those feelings. And I want you to really get into that feeling, that uncomfortable place of rejection, that uncomfortable place of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and no one will love me. And tell me where you actually feel that in your body now, Peter.
In my neck, in my chest, like in my neck and my chest, like here.
For those of you who are listening on replay or podcast or watching, it's important to understand and identify that pain that Peter pointed out to in his chest and it kind of just at the bottom of his throat there, that's that uncomfortable emotional pain that we use the addiction to try to run away from. So the very first part of the overview method is to actually get yourself acquainted with that feeling that you're trying to numb and bring it to the surface and get uncomfortable with it. And this is the part where you'll notice a stress response. Do you feel how uncomfortable it is, Peter? Okay. So what I'm going to get you to do is to make you realize this is a trigger that you haven't yet solved from your past. And there's many instances, maybe dad, maybe mother, maybe friends being bullied in school. And I want you to kind of sit in those feelings and allow whatever feelings to pop up that come up with the same kind of tone of rejection and not good enough. And I'm not worthy. That one that seems to keep coming up over and over again. Let's find the source of it and look back as early as you can. That really stands out as a big emotional charge for you. Which one would that be? How old were you?
You know what's coming to mind?
Yes.
It's coming, like I'm sitting at a table and my mother is helping me with my homework.
Okay. Around what age were you, Peter?
I would have to say like between 8 and 10, around there.
8 to 10.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you're sitting in that homework, kind of mom's helping you with homework.
Yeah.
And what should be happening that's not happening?
Well, she keeps getting angry, She's getting angry because she's getting frustrated with me because I'm not getting the homework.
Okay.
So it's like she knows what the answer is, but I'm not getting it, and she's getting frustrated, and I can feel her getting angry.
Okay, perfect. So I want you to sit with that one. What we're doing is we're coming up with an earlier trigger. Now, as we keep taking each previous scene of rejection and constantly work towards clearing it, that stranglehold of that addiction will weaken on you as you come up with better strategies to find a solution for that inadequacy, which involves your creativity. So we're now come up with one emotional charge that has stood up. And so that's the one we're going to work on. We're going to kind of go back there, and I want you to feel that feeling that she's getting frustrated at you. And now tell me, what should she have done instead? What's the fantasy of that? Tell me some of the shoulds of that scene.
She should have been more kind and patient with me. She should have been more nurturing and not scream at your own child, and
Patient, kind.
maybe more perceptive that your child is actually frightened by you because you're yelling at them.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So you're judging the fact that she wasn't being kind to you. She was challenging you, wasn't really being more supportive in your difficult time with that.
Yeah.
And that's causing you to feel not good enough and inadequate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being through the roof, when you're looking back on that, really get into the feeling of that without judging it, what you have. What is it on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 being through the roof, 0 is I'm grateful for it as it is.
I would say 7.
Okay, it's a 7. Great. Now the goal of the overview method, here it is. It's not to treat disorders. It's not to even treat the addiction. This is the cool thing. It's an emotional exercise. It's an emotional yoga exercise, which gets you to change the perception of those events to bring down that charge from a 7 as low as possible so that you can start to function. And the magic of this is the rewiring that happens in your brain, the neuroplasticity that gets activated to help heal from those lopsided perceptions of that scene. So right now, in that time, that homework scene from his mom with his mom when he's about 8 to 10 years old, he now looks back on it and it's bringing him an emotional charge because of his perception and belief that she should have been kind and nurturing, should have been more supportive. She should have been more perceptive. All of those shoulds that went against reality are causing him to interpret it as I'm inadequate. And that's what overview does, is we actually challenge that interpretation so that it brings down the stress. And by removing the belief, things start to change. So let's give it a shot. So as you know, when you are experiencing something, Peter, in that scene, the nervous system can only perceive through contrast. And it's kind of like when you look at a glass of milk, okay? And so you can kind of look at me right now. You look at a glass of milk, and if I see this glass of milk, one person who's dairy sensitive, another person who isn't, can you see, is that glass of milk healthy or is it a health hazard? Which one is it?
It depends.
It's actually both, and it's neither.
Mm.
It depends on the perception. Right? And so everything actually in its core is neutral when you look at it from a perception of overview of consciousness. And the whole goal is to see why everything is, as Byron Katie says, to love what is. Mm-hmm. And you're familiar with loving what is. So what we're going to do now is the active meditation portion of it. We're going to bring up those negative emotions and show you the duality of it, of how you're not able to experience one side without simultaneously experiencing the other. Okay?
Okay.
So what I'm going to get you to do is to not judge where the other side is coming from. When you go through a really traumatic time, like your mother challenging you, your psyche splits and you're now aware of the negative, of the stress of it. But that unconscious part goes to the part where it says, you know, the positive side of it. Mm-hmm. Okay? That part is unconscious. But the conscious part is the negative. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you to let go. You're going to dance with me. And I'm going to get you back to that scene. And I want you to go back and now feel it again. now that I've given you the little bit of the background of it. So go ahead and feel that, a feeling that comes up. As you're sitting there, mom is yelling at you, giving you a chat, kind of challenging you here.
I feel stupid.
Okay, perfect. Bring up the feeling of I feel stupid, I'm stupid in that moment. Feel that in your body. Feel that stupid feeling in your body. And where do you feel that now, Peter?
I feel it here.
Good. Sit with that one for a moment. So we're getting you to re-experience that feeling. Now, simultaneously, you can't feel stupid without feeling its opposite. What's the opposite of stupid to you?
Clever, smart, intelligent.
Clever, smart. Good. Go into that moment, and I want you to access, without any judgment, why you were feeling clever or smart in that moment. What was causing you? In what area were you feeling clever or smart in that moment? Talking with mom.
Well, I felt her that she was angry, so there was a level of emotional intelligence that I feel I possessed.
Could you see at that moment you had an intelligence of consciousness, even though it wasn't on the math homework itself, but you were perceptive enough to know that mom should be more perceptive of your feelings?
Mm-hmm.
Could you see that you had a cleverness and intelligence of emotions in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Good. I want you to bring that up. Can you see that it was a superiority to her lack of awareness in that moment? Could you see that it was there?
Yes.
I want you to now feel that cleverness that you felt as far as emotional awareness in that moment. Was there any part of you, Peter, that was kind of feeling like you were kind of getting under her skin and you were trying to get attention and you were cleverly getting what you wanted in that moment? Was there a part of you that was engaged in that or aware of that you kind of got under her skin and you were able to kind of be clever or in the getting of her attention or trying to get under her skin?
I think in other arenas, but not necessarily in this moment. I don't necessarily.
You didn't see it in that. Okay, great. So what I'll get you to do is get out of that and look all around in your life in that moment. What areas did you perceive to be super duper clever in and really smart in? Might not have been in the lesson that she was helping you with, but what did you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were above and beyond other people in that same era, in that exact same time? Was it in other subjects? Because it could have been math or...
I guess, well, I was very musically talented. I was learning piano at the time, and I really excelled in that, for sure.
Did you?
Yeah.
Good. Can you see that you had a perception at that moment, while she was giving you grief for your homework, which wasn't a high priority for you, that you knew that you had smarts? That part of your frustration was the fact that you were smart in other things?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to bring that awareness of intelligence into your body about the fact that in that exact moment, that thing wasn't your cup of tea, but other subjects were.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you see that you had it in that exact moment?
Mm-hmm.
Feel that now. Feel that smarts, that cleverness, that intelligence that you had in other arenas that were not in that moment, in that scene. Feel that. Where do you feel that in your body as that kind of awareness comes in?
I just feel very anxious all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I feel a lot of anxiety in this area.
Yeah. Bring that. That's okay. Allow that to be. Sit with that one for a moment. So I want you to now just feel that anxiety. Do you see it in that scene, or are you just feeling that in general?
No, I feel it. I feel it in the scene.
Good. Bring up that anxiety in that moment where mom was coming down hard on you. Feel that anxiety.
Yeah, it's like I'm very scared of her anger.
Okay, bring up that fear in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Feel that. Allow that to be right there. Good. We're bringing those feelings all up again.
Yeah, it's a fear of upsetting her, you know,
Okay.
like of losing her love.
Okay, bring up that fear of losing her love. What's the opposite of that anxiety and fear of losing her love to you? Certainty?
Yeah, that she loves me.
Okay, go into that moment and feel that uncertainty and that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Look carefully. Can you see where you felt that certainty that she loved you? Can you see at all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me where you saw it in that moment.
Because she was helping me with my homework to the best of her ability, and if
she was taking her time to care.
Yeah, and if she didn't care, she wouldn't necessarily be doing that with me.
I want you to go back to that moment, and as she's coming down hard on you and you're feeling that anxiety and fear of loss of her approval, go into that and feel the certainty of love that you felt in that moment. Can you access it in that moment, Peter?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want you to feel that now. Let your body feel it. Just feel that in her anger. Can you see through the anger and see love there? The certainty that she actually loves you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to now feel that. Feel the fact that she's wanting. Can you see that she's wanting the fact that you to actually get it, and her frustration is on the fact that you're not getting it because of the fact that she loves you.
Mm-hmm.
Feel that. Good. Bring up that feeling of I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. Feel that in your body in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you feel that, Peter?
Still around here.
It's all in the same spot.
Yeah.
Good. Sit with that one for a moment. Where did you feel a sense of superiority? A sense of certainty and superiority in that moment? Be honest. Don't judge where it is.
Mm-hmm.
What areas of study, what fields were you really, really excelling in? Don't judge the answer.
I would say, I guess, music.
Good. Feel that. Can you see you had a bit of an infatuation with yourself about your musical abilities at that time?
Mm-hmm. Good.
I really want you to access that. And I want you to really connect with that because it's the truth. Feel that. Let your body really accept and bring in the truth of that scene, that you're feeling that frustration. Can you see where you're feeling a sense of support in that exact time? Did you have music teachers? Did you have guidance counselors at that time really kind of praising you, puffing you up, and encouraging you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were they saying? What were they saying about you around that time?
Well, I kept skipping levels. So I would go from Conservatory 1 to Conservatory 3 to 5 to 8.
And what would the teachers say about you all that time?
So they were very impressed with my level of comprehension.
Can you see that musically, that you had an intelligence musically that you didn't have in that specific subject?
Mm-hmm.
Bring up that feeling of music intelligence and superiority for skipping all of those grades. Feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to ask you to go in and look at your mother giving you all of that feedback and the way that she's actually kind of coming at you. And I want you to tell me if you see any acceptance or support in that. If you just take your story out of it, look carefully at her eyes and her frustration. Can you see any support, any encouragement, any of that kindness that you think that wasn't there?
I guess I see her frustrated, and I see her wanting to communicate the answers to me in as best way as she could.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I can sense her frustration. And
how does that make you feel? Rejected? Any other negative emotions that remain in that scene that are coming up?
Just discomfort.
Okay.
Like not wanting to be, I guess not wanting to do what was in front of me, because I was just like a feeling of shut down, like a feeling of being shut down, shutting down, and a feeling of wanting to escape the moment.
Okay. Bring in that feeling of shutting down and wanting to escape, wanting to run away from that pain.
Mm-hmm.
Feel that. I want you to feel that wanting to run away from the pain type of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Good. What's the opposite of that feeling to you? That shut down, wanting to escape?
Embracing what's going on.
Go into that moment, and I want you to really look without any judgment of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you feeling a sense of embracing in that moment? What were you embracing? Can you see that in that moment your mind kind of split and you were embracing other subjects? Was it music? Was it performing? That you were shutting down from this particular lesson and her and the way that she's teaching? Can you see that your mind split and opened up and embraced something else? What was that thing? It's always there. You can't have one side without the other.
I'm having a tough time finding what I'm embracing.
Mm-hmm. In that moment, go back there. You're 8 to 10. She's giving you a hard time. You want to shut down. Can you see that you were embracing something else? Were you trying? Did you try? Did you keep at it? Did you fight back, or did you kind of accept her for who she was and keep taking it? Did you listen to her and keep working at it? What was it that you were embracing at that moment you were shutting down? Look carefully, look all around, look at your psyche. What was it that was absolutely as you were shutting here, where did your mind go? Scan your unconscious mind.
Mm-hmm. Well,
keep looking.
A part of, I guess the part that was receptive was the part of me that was receptive to her anger, but wanted to let her know that the anger was affecting me negatively. So there was almost this weird desire to manipulate her by showing her that she was damaging me.
So you were basically embracing how she was being, so that you can use it as a lesson for her to kind of facilitate her conscious awareness of parenting.
Yeah.
Very, very clever. I want you to bring in that embracing, that you were kind of like, what were you loving about that? Tell the truth.
Well, it's more of like like manipulation through guilt. Like, It's like I wanted to guilt her into showing her
that she's being damaging. Good stuff. Yeah. Thank you for getting real. I want you to bring in that embracing. Can you see that you were watching her kind of cleverly go through her little conniption fit so that you can use it against her? You can be real as something of, come on, Mom, show some kindness to me for once. Can you see you were kind of frustrated at her? Was it the fact that you were constantly frustrated with her for not being as affectionate towards you?
Yeah.
Could you see that you were kind of using her hard assness at that moment, kind of as an example of, look, Mom, this is what I've been trying to show you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that at 8 to 10 years old, you're actually kind of embracing her treatment towards you as a kind of way of manipulating her guilt-wise to show her exactly, how she's been treating you as to make a point, to prove a point.
Absolutely.
Was she proving your point in that exact moment?
Yes. She was.
What was the point that you were always trying to make with her that she just wasn't getting?
It's to do with, rather than demanding from somebody something, helping them work with their strengths, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
Something to that effect.
So can you see at that moment while she was being that way, even though it was scary and you were feeling that inadequacy and the rejection and she should have been nicer to you, that you were actually kind of embracing that as an opportunity to teach her how to treat you better?
Mm-hmm.
And that you needed her to kind of fly off the handle at something that you really didn't have too much control over, something you're trying to understand better?
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of proved your point?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to feel that now and connect to that part of you in that scene where you were embracing the way she was and overriding it to kind of show her and prove to her of how you wanted to be treated by her.
Mm-hmm. I feel anger now.
Okay, bring up the anger now. Good. Now we've uncovered another one. Bring up the anger in that moment and feel it towards her.
Mm-hmm.
Feel that. Let your body allow that in. We're just neutralizing the scene.
It's like a rage.
Good. Bring that feeling up. Where do you feel it in your body?
It's still here.
Good. Here. Sit with that one for a moment. Let that sit.
Like a fuck you.
Right. Bring up that feeling. What's the opposite of that rage? Fuck you to you.
I'm not sure.
What's the opposite of rage to you?
Peace.
Good. Go into that moment, and you know how sometimes in traumatic moments, your mind can split? I've talked to you about that before.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get you to go back to that moment and get very honest and clear where your mind split, and where did you go and find that sense of peace in that moment? Where were you getting a sense of peace? Tell the truth. In that moment of anger, where was your feeling of peace coming from in that moment?
I guess a feeling of believing that I was better than her.
Mm-hmm. In what way?
Well, that I had enough emotional intelligence to know when I was being mistreated or mistreating other people.
Can you see and be honest with yourself that at that scene at 8 to 10, you had an awareness of an emotional intelligence higher than your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Even though that you were angry, can you connect to that part of you that had that sense of peace, of awareness, of your conscious awareness in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to now really feel that in your body. That sense of peace. Really connect to that part. Tell me why you love that. What part of you really got off on that?
Well, it made me feel special. It made me feel like I had something to contribute to the world.
Because of your awareness?
Because of the awareness, because of the emotional awareness and the sensitivity.
Could you see that you knew you were a more sensitive human being at that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have an awareness of your sensitivity and emotional intelligence in that moment?
Yes.
I really want you to feel that kind of sense of superiority. Sit with that one for a moment. Feel that. Good. Any other negative emotions that remain in that scene with mom? Can you see you had superiority, you had intelligence, you had support, you had leveling up,
Mm-hmm.
you had cleverness. You also had a sense of peace in knowing. Was there a sense of peace in knowing as well that you had her attention? Can you access any of that, even though it was negative attention? Was there a sense of satisfaction you had?
You know, I have to be honest, I'm very hyper aware of all the people that are looking at this conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's normal. I know. That's the toughest part of it.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's challenging because I put on shows.
You're a performer.
I'm a performer, so
You're
I'm always aware of my audience. And
Beautiful.
At this time,
Good.
I'm just like constantly. I'm focused on them, and I'm focused on wanting to deliver a performance when I know that I'm like the truth is that I want to get the bottom of this sexual addiction shit.
Yep. That's right. Well, owning that and just being honest is a big part of that. Now just go right into that scene and tell me what negative emotions remain in that scene. So we'll go into that because we're going to clear this.
It's a feeling of I can't do this.
In the homework scene, right?
I can't.
Okay. Go into that homework scene and feel that I can't do this shutdown feeling. I really want you to be in that scene. You're doing awesome, by the way. Just feel that. And now tell me where you were feeling like you could do stuff. You couldn't do that thing in front of you. What did you become aware of in that moment that you could do?
I could play when this is done.
Mm-hmm.
I could have done music.
Good. Bring up the stuff that you do know that you had an awareness of. You could play, you did music. You had an awareness at 8 to 10 years old. You knew that you're good in music and you excelled there.
Mm-hmm.
So bring that feeling in there. Feel that I can feeling. You didn't have it in the homework there, but you had it in other areas, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Any other negative emotions that remain in that scene?
Shame.
Bring up that feeling of shame. Good one.
There's a lot there.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Shame.
Bring up the shame for not being able to complete that. Feel that in your body.
Like I'm wrong.
Let your body just
like I'm wrong.
right there. Where do you feel that? I'm shame, I'm wrong.
I feel this, and it's like this crazy film on my face that's drooping my face down.
Yeah. Bring that feeling into it. Allow yourself to feel that. You're doing good. Just sit in that one for a moment. You're doing really well.
I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Good. Bring up that feeling. I'm wrong. Feel that. Now tell the truth. It was there and you know it. Where were you right? What were you right about? And what did you have pride about? And what were you right about in that moment? Without any judgment.
What's the opposite of shame?
Pride. We can talk about the same stuff that you had kind of mentioned earlier where your pride was.
Yeah.
Where was your pride in that exact moment sitting with mom?
Well, I was proud that, again, I was proud that I kind of recognized that I was sensitive and I was, I don't want to say unique in that way, but I definitely noticed a difference between the way that my mother emoted and the way that I emoted. And the way that I was in relation to emotions and feelings of other people.
Right. Can you see that you felt right in that sense of treating other people?
Absolutely.
Can you see that you were absolutely right in that and that she was wrong in that?
Yeah.
In your perception, the way she was treating you was wrong and that the way you treat other people was right?
In that moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want you to really feel that you were right in it, not in terms of maybe the homework, but in terms of the treating other people and emotion and emotional awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to really feel that now. Take a deep breath in and really color that into the picture. Sit with that one for a moment. Really feel that rightness when you're looking and judging. Feel that positive feeling of, I'm right. I'm right in terms of human interaction. Now, let's look and first see from an overview perspective without any judgment and knowing what your values are, knowing what mom's values are, which is making sure that her son is, in her opinion, successful. Mm-hmm. Why should she? And knowing her history and maybe her feelings of inadequacy as a mother. Let's look at her. Let's look at all the factors and let's assume this is the part for those of you listening in on replay, or this is the part where we get from Brene Brown again that that we have to assume that everyone's doing the very best they could in that given moment. That with all the information at any given time, we are essentially doing the very best that we can at that moment in time. Taking in all of the inadequacies of the other person, taking in all of their fears, their values. Why, Peter, in that moment, should she have freaked out on you? without any judgment?
Well, she was stressed out, I guess. She was overworked and single mother, and
her son was not doing well in a particular class, maybe?
Yeah, she was just very passionate about wanting me to get things right. Right? Maybe not have the same life who struggled so much to make ends meet.
Okay, so she's been going through her own stresses and she was tired and trying to help you, okay?
Yeah.
Can you see that she was taking her own time and feeling like she wasn't getting through?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, can you see that she should also sometimes, if she wasn't aware in a moment of unconsciousness, that she could have also been feeling inadequate as a teacher or a mother and projecting that onto you at that moment?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I want you to bring that kind of awareness in because I'm just getting you disconnected. This is the part, those of you who are watching, this is the part where we disconnect from the story and look up and first and foremost see why should it have gone exactly as it did. So you have a mother who's struggling to make ends meet and isn't, you know, this is my son. So going through tons of stress and feeling inadequate, and then all of a sudden the son doesn't get the homework. She feels like a failure as a mother, and she then reacts and projects that onto another person. Can you see that that's actually a strong possibility, first and foremost? Good. Bring that in there. So can you see why at that time that she should have been she shouldn't have been as nurturing?
Absolutely. Given the circumstances, absolutely.
Given the circumstances, and that she might have felt like feelings of failure in that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question that I have. So what was the benefit of her challenging you like that? What did it force you to do? Let's look. What did the negative emotions force you to do? Did it force you to look more into your music? Did it force you to really work harder? Did you pass that class? Do you remember working harder on it until you got it? What was the benefit of her doing that? Let's assume that negative emotions, that people's reactions and stuff aren't lethal. Okay? What's the benefit of mom doing that?
Well, it made me aware of how I react to anger and the feeling of anger. So that was helpful. Made me
And how did that serve you? Did you turn more to music or less to music? Did you become more creative as a result? Look in those realms. What did that anger or that feeling of frustration that your mother created, that kind of angst within you, force you to do?
Well, I do express myself through music, so, you know, I guess it would be more in that direction.
Okay, can you see that that was one of the beginnings of kind of pushing you into those negative emotions so that you can find a proper expression for it?
Sure.
How did you react in that moment? Did you fight back, or did you kind of use it as a lesson for her? What was the benefit of how you reacted?
Well, manipulating people emotionally is it's a theme in my life.
Okay. Can you see that you've used that theme to get you to kind of greater places? I mean, we let's be honest here. We all have this emotional button. We all have a button on the word manipulation. But, you know, when a child, how often does a child manipulate their parents? Or when a parent says, listen, here's the deal. if you get good grades, I'm going to buy you a car.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that that's a version of manipulation? Or we can actually understand that other people have a set of values, and you can use what their values are to get what you want, basically. This isn't a justification for manipulation, but can you see that you learned a very useful tool to be able to help you level up in your environment?
Absolutely.
Can you see that that moment also broke your subordination towards mom? It helped to break your subordination towards, having her above you? That moment when you realize that they're not so much greater than you?
Yeah, that they make mistakes. Yeah, absolutely.
That they make mistakes. Can you see that that was one of the contributing factors to helping you realize that they aren't perfect?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
What's the benefit of not subordinating to mom and having your own kind of point of view?
Well, I get to be creative. I get to decide for myself what I want to do.
Good. Can you see that that moment that your mom was negating you into homework that wasn't inspiring you, can you link that at all to your creativity and moving towards what you want to do? You see there's a connection there? Towards music, entertainment.
Sure. Well, my desire to entertain people is also the desire to make them happy, right? So
can you see that your mother's behavior, can you see that your mother's kind of treatment towards you, did it force you into becoming kind of an entertainer to make people happy, including her sometimes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do.
Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you compensate for mother's anger?
Well, I would, for the most part, I would do what she wanted me to do. Right.
Okay.
I would be very well behaved in that regard. But I would also be, jovial and I'd be a clown. Just to kind of.
Can you see that scene of her kind of pushing you into a little corner?
Yeah.
What did it force you to do? If you can look back and really see what resources that it forced you to get, how did that serve you? How did it serve you on your spiritual path of her kind of not being as nurturing?
Well, it made me more independent. Absolutely. And it kind of separated, I guess, my desire to absorb and completely refer to the world through her eyes.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Can you see that at that moment, did she force you into an independence of your own values, your own worth, your own interests? What did her pushing you into a corner like that for, and realizing you weren't getting that material, force you into doing that you weren't really able to see just on your own?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What did her pushing you into a corner, feeling uncomfortable with the material that you're seeing in front of you, what did it force you into doing that you weren't willing to do on your own?
Well, after that point, I kind of did my own homework.
Okay.
I did it without necessarily relying on her.
Right. And did you make it through?
Absolutely. Yes.
You found a way through, huh?
Yes.
Did you stop calling her for help with homework after that?
Yeah.
What's the benefit of that?
Well, I learned things on my own. It's self-sufficiency.
Can you see that that's actually what happened? Can you actually feel that?
Yeah.
If she were to help you and be that nurturing, kind-hearted kind of, here you are, Peter, let me walk you through this, and really kind of handheld you through that whole process, what would be the drawback?
Well, then I would completely rely on somebody else, and then I would never really know anything. Right?
100%.
Mm-hmm.
So what, if you look at your life right now and some of the challenging points that you've made it through, can you see that, how has that independence served you? You're doing good. Keep
I
it
guess
up.
it's made me more discerning.
Mm-hmm.
Discerning regarding people's personalities and whether or not I want to hang around these people, right?
And that feeling of not feeling nurtured and disapproved of, that mom constantly made you feel. Mm-hmm. Let's assume that negative feeling is not lethal. What did it force you into doing as far as your highest values in performing? That constant feeling of not good enough that mom made you feel, that you perceive.
Well, it pushed me towards, you know what it did?
Tell me.
I started reading a lot of self-help books, you know, in my early teens. Mm-hmm. And I felt like the nurturing and support that I received from the books was like, it kind of pushed me to seek approval, and not seek approval, but seek that warmth and nurturance in terms of like verbal and linguistics, love and appreciation from those other means, right? Which kind of spiraled into a whole, you know.
And how did that serve your performing? How did that serve your performance bug?
Well, the more you understand about yourself, the more expressive you become as an individual, right?
And what did you discover by expressing yourself authentically on a stage?
Say it again.
What did you discover as you became more authentic and expressed yourself through those means on stage? What did you discover about approval?
Well, I connected more with people, right? When you get vulnerable with others, then others really appreciate that. Right?
Especially when you're on stage and sharing music, right?
Absolutely.
And if mom gave it to you all along in your perception, what would be the drawback to your personal development and your arts?
Well, yeah, like I said, it would be completely dependent on her. It's possible that I would be just dependent on her, and I would just do what she says in order to get the approval. But really never know that myself, right?
Right. Can you see that you now get it when you're waiting tables and you command the room and you're making everybody laugh, or when you're performing a song or a piece, like a theatrical piece, or whatever you do on stage, whether your stage is, you know, on the street, or whether your stage is in the you know, the dining room of the breakfast place you work in. Can you see that her lack of perceived support and kindness brought this desire to find it in other means?
Absolutely.
And what did you discover in that search? Where can you have it? Where do you see it? Where do you get it?
Well, it's
in the songs.
I guess the biggest realization I guess I got from that was that even though someone is your parent, that doesn't necessarily imply that like you're gonna get something from this person. Like, this person brought you into the world, right? But at the same token,
They're going through their own challenges.
They're going through it's not their responsibility either.
And what was the benefit?
Pardon?
Correct. Finish that thought.
No, it wasn't their responsibility to, give you that love necessarily. Of course, it would be nice. It's the ideal, right?
And what would have been the drawback if she gave that to you? What would have been the drawback to your theatrics, your personal development, your performing, your music? Did you notice that you sought out approval by playing for people, for singing for people, for recording for people? Not only was it an expression from within you, but what would you notice from the outside as far as feedback goes?
Well, the feedback was good.
Can you see that your perceived lack of support from mom drove you into trying to find feedback outside of you for that support?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you discover in that search?
Well, that I'm very sociable.
Sit with that one for a moment. Can you see that your mom's lack of nurture forced you Finish that thought?
No, I feel that. I definitely feel that.
Can you see you're Mr. Social?
Yeah, I thought we were barking up the wrong tree for a moment there, but then that really brought it home with me.
Yeah,
the social, the fact that I love people. I love people, and very emotionally intelligent, and
you get approval from the performance, and you're authentic.
Absolutely,
and you speak your truth without fear. Look at you right now.
Mm-hmm.
If mom was overly supportive and nurturing and coddled you the whole time the way you fantasized that they should, what would be the drawbacks to all of those things?
Well, I wouldn't have reached out to the population outside of me. I wouldn't have.
Would you have found a proper expression?
I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I don't know. It's a potential. But I definitely resonate with being sociable and it instilling within me the desire to be sociable and to connect with others.
And can you see that you don't really make other people feel kind of stupid?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very encouraging.
Sit with that one for a moment. Did you ever take the time to thank your mother for raising you the way she did so that you can be an encouraging, supportive, sociable, independent, creative, intuitive performer?
No. I haven't.
Feel that.
No.
And can you see that you weren't not good enough, that you got raised up, you got that feedback, and you got that support? It might not have been coming from mom, but it was coming from the society around you.
Yeah.
Can you see how important that is as a gay guy growing up, to have that from the social network with all of those feelings, and to have it from the society, how important that is? Can you imagine if you were like a mama's boy and constantly being coddled, and what that would be like growing up as a gay kid? What would that have been like?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
If you didn't have somebody to make you so resourceful to get that approval from outside sources other than mom. Mom gives you all that support. Mom gives you all that nurture, that softness, that gentleness that you think you should have had, which caused this you know, the fact that she didn't give it to you caused you to go seek it out elsewhere and find creative methods of getting that approval.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the drawbacks?
The drawbacks of getting that approval.
If it came from mom and not from the people around you that you were getting it from.
Well, I guess I wouldn't stretch into these spheres, you know, I wouldn't. There's a lot that could happen. Social spheres, yeah.
Can you see it pushed?
And it's also made me very comfortable with people on stage, right? Because that was, you know, if I was not comfortable with people, then being on stage would be very terrifying for me. But because of that desire to be connected to other people, other like-minded people, it kind of pre-paved the way for performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it made you comfortable on stage, that discomfort to go seek that approval.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you're looking at that scene now, 0 to 10, it was a 7. Where is it now?
It's like a 2 or a 3.
Okay. So what was the benefit of how you responded in that scene?
And we're talking about me responding in a manipulative way?
Yeah.
What's the benefit of me manipulating my mother into making her feel guilty for being angry at me?
Right. What did that do for her? Did that make her more conscientious of you? Did that soften her up? Did you hold a mirror to her behavior and say, Mom, could you be more conscious? Did that make her more conscious?
I guess you have to ask her.
Okay. Can you see that it made you not want to seek her help for any homework anymore?
Yes.
What was the benefit of that?
Independence.
Of how you responded that way?
Independence. Self-knowledge, self-learn. Ever since but I've always been someone who's always sought out knowledge independent of institutions because I like doing it on my own.
How did her negation of you and your perception help you with your self-healing?
Well, it made me realize that I'm the creator of my own, reality. I'm the steerer of my own ship, that it's not my mother's responsibility and that it's my own. And
can you see that your mom pissed you off just enough to start looking out for yourself?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Even though we judge the form that it comes in, isn't that the ultimate success of a parent, is to get your child to actually be self-sufficient by any means necessary, sometimes with coddling, but would you have gotten that self-sufficient if it was done any other way than what she did?
I'm not sure.
What would be the most efficient way of getting you self-sufficient? That rhymed. Efficient way of getting you self-sufficient.
Well, yeah, it would be to push against you. But
even though it hurts, because can you see it was painful enough to push you to become into independent learning? And this personal development stuff that you're really into now, can you see that she's kind of been the main person that's pushed you into that awareness?
Yeah.
Have you been able to touch other people's lives because of anything that you've learned on that journey?
Yes, absolutely.
I want you to look at all of the faces of the people that you've been able to really connect with because of your desire to be social and to be humorous and to be entertaining. And your personal development journey. Have you been giving a lot of people lessons on that and helping transform people's perceptions?
Absolutely. I've been coaching a few people.
Look at their lives. What would be the drawback to their lives if you hadn't been there with your knowledge that was prompted by the experiences that you had with mom?
Well, they would have missed out. Right?
Cool. So when you're looking down at that scene now, scale of 0 to 10, where you're at now, are you willing to take one for the team for planet Earth to see your creativity and your sociability and your humor?
I would say it's a 0, 0.50.
Good.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is this is neuroplasticity. We're taking each time you found a benefit, what we're doing is we're rewiring it. Now, does that clear it altogether? No, you can see there's a lot of resentment towards mom, but this session, this kind of workout clears that. Do you still feel in that scene, looking down, do you still feel inadequate when you're looking down at that scene?
No.
Do you still feel guilty and ashamed and stupid?
No.
Beautiful.
No.
So now that clears a previous reality scene that we have. We're going to come back to last week when you had that whole kind of experience with that guy. That's coming up again, and bring up that feeling again, that feeling of rejection and not good enough. Feel that in your body. And that's on a scale of 0 to 10.
Just give me 1 second, okay? I'm just trying to focus in. I don't feel it.
Sorry, you just cut off there. When you're looking back at that scene, you don't feel that same emotional charge that you did?
I don't feel the charge at all. I'm searching for it, but I can't feel it.
One of the interesting things for those of you watching is that when you have a stressful scene right now, it's always pushing a button for something not yet resolved from your past. So that's why in the overview method, what we do is we go to the earlier memory and clear that. And oftentimes when we come back, you look at that and you're like, do you still feel rejected in that scene with the guy?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You're being honest. You're not bullshitting.
No.
You're not putting on a performance.
No. I'm trying to get there.
Okay.
I'm trying to feel it.
So in that same time where you felt I'm not good enough, do you still feel I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy when he's giving you that?
You know what there is left is this yearning, this longing. But none of the other stuff is there. It's just the longing.
No rejection.
No.
The yearning for that
no,
connection.
It's not. There's no rejection, no unworthiness, no I'm stupid, none of that. But there is a longing. There's a yearning to merge with this other person, or to get my needs met sexually.
Okay. Good. Yearning. So go to that moment. And so how does that make you feel? What's that judgment? How does that making you feel in that moment?
It's like this,
weak. You feel weak?
It's like, give it to me. I need it. I want it. It's just, do you resonate?
Okay.
It's like,
no, never.
You know when it's painful to want something? That's the feeling.
Go into that pain, that yearning. Bring that into you in that moment. Bring that yearning in that moment and feel that pain. in that moment. What's the opposite of the yearning to you?
Having.
Having. Go into that moment and bring up the feeling of yearning in that moment. And where did you feel that you had that moment of pleasure? Where was the moment of pleasure in that moment?
Well, in that particular moment, we were dancing. And in the other moment where I broke down, I was surrounded by two people who really appreciated me.
Okay, can you see that there was a having there was a pleasure in that moment. I want you to bring in the pleasure of that yearning.
Mm-hmm.
Can you access the pleasure of the yearning and tell me a little bit about it?
The pleasure of the yearning? Oh, yeah. God. Pleasure of the yearning. So I'm looking at this guy's face that I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm describing to you the pleasure of yearning this person.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you feel the pain that you can't have. Where is the pleasure in that moment? Why do you love the shit out of the fact that you can't have him? Tell the truth.
Why do I love the shit over the fact that I can't have him?
Why do you love the fact that you can't have him? Where's the pleasure in the not having?
Well, I get to be his friend. And if I were to sleep with him, we wouldn't be friends anymore.
Bring up that feeling of pleasure that you having as a friend.
Yeah.
Can you see that it was there?
Yeah.
I want you to feel that awareness of having him in your social circle and feel that having. I want you to really get in that and that pleasure of the awareness that you have him as a friend. Get in there and feel that pleasure of the awareness that you have him as a friend now.
But yeah, there's still a wanting, dude. There's like a wanting to.
Okay.
It's like wanting for him to see me.
Okay. So I feel what? I feel invisible. You feel invisible. What is it that you're feeling?
I want to say unloved.
Okay, bring up that feeling of unloved in that moment. And you remember that specific moment where it was happening? You felt unloved by him. Go into that moment and now get into overview. And now look. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like overlooked, like he's unloved. Yeah, I would say unloved would be the emotion, because it's like I see this person giving attention and enthusiasm and excitement to my friend.
But not you.
But not me. So I feel like I'm not only missing out from this experience, but I feel unloved.
Bring up that feeling of unloved in that moment and let that sit in your body for a moment. Now, where did you feel? Now go into that. Where were you feeling a sense of love coming from? Look in all areas of life in that exact moment. What was happening in your life, in your career, at work, other people that were into you, attracted to you. Where were you getting attention from?
Well, all my spheres that I hang out with, I have good people in my life, and they love and approve of me, and they appreciate me.
Good. Bring that into your awareness and feel their presence in that moment. Get right into that and feel that. Let every cell of your body feel that loved feeling. Tell me about how they were making you feel around that same time.
Well, I felt we had conversations, good conversations with one another. We hung out a lot with each other.
They would seek you out. They would invite you places.
Yeah.
Can you see that you were also being loved at work too? Everything that you said, people would come and see you. And in fact, just to come and have you as their waiter.
It's funny because my mind says, okay, that's great, but I want sexual love. I want
Right,
I
I
want
understand. We're
sexual
going to
love.
get there. I know. This is the part where your intellectual mind is still trying to talk you back and say, no, the other form was
Yeah,
better.
the other form is what I want.
I completely understand. I know we're not there yet, but I just want you in this part to see that the two sides were there. That's this part.
I see the sides
I
are there.
totally
I see
get
the
it.
sides are there. I see the
Yes.
approval at work. I see the love of the customers.
Good.
I see the
Right.